From Anshe Sfard Bethel Emeth Congregation, it's time to take 10 minutes for Torah with Rabbi Joel Finkelstein.
Welcome to our discussion of Parashat Vayishlach, the what-ifs of Rapprochement. Sometimes it's fascinating to consider, what if? What if things had gone differently? How would that have changed the course of Jewish history, the course of human history? And if there's anything that suggests perhaps some other path that could have been taken, it's Parashat Vayishlach. After all, here Esav approaches Yaakov and says, Nisav nelecha, nilchan lenegdecha. Esav is hoping to walk together with Yaakov off into the distant future. Doesn't this suggest some hopes and possibilities of rapprochement, of a coming together of what are would-be enemies with the people of Israel? But it's not just that. There are other what-ifs in the book of Genesis, in Sefer Bereshit. The Malbim, 19th century Polish commentator, suggests that Yaakov and Esav, they could have had the relationship of Yisachar and Zvulun, a relationship of you study, I'll do the work. You engage in the life of the mind, I will support you. The Yisachar and Zvulun relationship, the brotherly relationship, that's what Yitzchak thought could be the relationship of Yaakov and Esav. It was a what-if, a possibility in Parshas Toldos of the two brothers not being enemies, but on the contrary, supporting each other. In this week's Parsha, we meet the father of Esav, the father of Amalek, Eliphaz. Eliphaz had a Pilegesh, a concubine known as Timnah, and they gave birth to Amalek, the arch enemy of the Jewish people. Who is this Eliphaz? Eliphaz, according to the Midrash, was a fellow who was the son of Esav, and who was told, go out and kill Yaakov on his way to find a bride. Go kill him. He gets there, and according to these various stories that are told, he starts to cry, and Yaakov says, what's the problem? And he says, well, I was told by my father, I want to fulfill the commandment of my father. I'm supposed to kill you, but according to one version, the Chidah says, you're my Rabbi. You're my teacher. I can't kill you. In the Sefer Yashar, one book that tells these stories, it says, I have a mitzvah savi. I mean, it's my father's commandments, his mitzvah. Rashi says, how can I kill you? After all, he was gadal b'chiko shel Yitzchak. He grew up in the bosom of Yitzchak. This was Yitzchak's einakel, as they say in Yiddish. It's Yitzchak's grandson. How can he possibly kill his uncle Yaakov? This is the father of Amalek. That's the father of Amalek. And who's the mother? Timnah. Timnah, what's Timnah? Timnah said, they rejected me. They don't want to marry me, even though I come from Seir, I come from Alufim, I come from important family. I really want to cling to the family of Yaakov, but they won't let me in. Halavai sheyeh pilegesh. At least if I could be a concubine to Eliphaz, that would be good enough. She really wanted into the Jewish people. We start to say to ourselves, where have we gone wrong? What do we do wrong here? Could history have been different? Could this Eliphaz have been brought in deeper into the community? Could Timnah have been brought in and have become a true wife and part of the Abrahamic family? These are interesting possibilities to entertain. And then there's another. In our Parsha, we have the story of the rape of Tamar. The story of Shechem, city of Shechem, the person of Shechem and Hamor. And the question was, what about those people? They seemed like they were ready to be nimol, to be circumcised in order to marry with the Jewish family. It seemed like Dinah was trying to have some influence on them. It seemed that perhaps even at the end of the story, some suggested Dinah succeeded. The women of Shechem were not killed by Shimon and Levi. They were kept alive, and perhaps they too had converted, and they too had joined the Jewish family. So it seems like even the Canaanites, there's potential that there were other possibilities, the what-ifs of Jewish history. There were other possibilities other than eternal enmity between the Jews and Amalek, the Jews and the Canaanites. But then, after this hopeful glimpse, you have to say to ourselves, well, Sarah had to disabuse Abraham of this lofty notion of rapprochement, and she said, "Gareshet ben Amazot." No, you have to get rid of this Yishmael and this Hagar. And God says she was right. Tragically, she was right. There was something that Abraham was right about. I mean, it was Be'er Lachai Roi. The Hagar was a person who could encounter angels. Yishmael was someone God could hear. There was something to it. But Sarah was right. Now was not the right time. As far as the Malbim's idea that perhaps Esav and Yaakov could be great brothers, one to support the other, Rivka knew that it wasn't going to be that way. She understood, she overheard, she could hear prophetically, deeply as a mother, that Esav, at his gut, wanted to kill Yaakov. They understood the reality. Shimon and Levi understood the reality, the cynicism of the city of Shechem. Did they really want to become one people, or did they want to take over our land, take over our property and our children, our wives, as they actually say with their own mouths? Is there potential? Do we see all around us enmity? Do we see around us potential for rapprochement, or potential for bringing people into the Jewish faith, into the Jewish community? There are elements of both all around us, all the time. Some see the glass more half empty, and they see only hatred all around. Some see it so full that they don't understand. They say, "Wow, why hasn't Mashiach come already? Why don't we live in a world of complete tikkun and complete fixing of the world? After all, there's so many hopeful echoes out there in the community, in our interactions with others. After all, don't you see that moment, that glimpse of where Esav is neshako b'chol libo? Rashi himself says that just at that one moment, Esav did hug Yaakov with all of his heart. Doesn't that make you hopeful? And the realist school says, yeah, it was just at that moment, just at that one moment. Yes, there are glimpses of eternity. There are glimpses of the end of days. There are glimpses of rapprochement, of the whole world coming together. Likro kulam b'shem safa achat, likro kulam b'shem Hashem. Glimpses of the prophecy of Tzfanya. Well, the whole world will speak one language to call out in the name of God. There are echoes of Ayashem l'melech al kol ha'aretz v'emahu Yashem echad u'shmo echad. There are echoes of that one day, Zechariah says, when God's name will be one in the whole world. There are echoes of it. You can find hints of it here and there. But in the end, we have to heed the wise voices of Sarah and Rebecca, who understand that this is not the time. We can't force the end with sworn enemies. If you listen carefully to the enemies, even those handshakes, even those smiles, sometimes have other undertones, other possibilities. The what-ifs of Jewish history, there were glimpses of a world that it's true, that world will come. That sentiment does lie within the hearts of all of humanity. Well, the question is only a question of when. Bayomahu, I'll come to you, Ad asher avo el Adonai seira. Yaakov says, yes, I'm not saying no to rapprochement. I'm not saying no to peace. But it's that one day, on that one day, then I'll come to you, Esav. That day will come. But unfortunately, sadly, tragically, that's the fate of humanity. It's not necessarily today. Thank you for joining us here at the Anshe Sfard Bethel 11th Congregation here in Memphis, Tennessee. Join us each week for a discussion of the Parsha and the various holidays. Thanks to Jason Lefkowitz, our producer. Thank you.
This has been 10 Minutes for Torah with Rabbi Joel Finkelstein. To learn more, visit ASBEE.org.